Hello students, welcome to the lecture series on international business, and we will discuss in this lecture International Economic Organization. This is part 2. I am Professor Soma Sen Gupta, Kamala Nehru College, University of Delhi. In this lecture, we will discuss the following topics: the functions of World Trade Organization, structure and working of WTO, overview of WTO agreements and the major components of WTO. Beginning with the functions of World Trade Organization. The functions emerges from the of course the objectives of the WTO. Now you know that the establishment of WTO is probably the most vital outcome of Uruguay round or the 8th round negotiation of GATT, and its structure, function, etc. are regulated by the Marrakesh Agreement. It has overriding objectives. As I said, that the functions are the outcome of the objectives of WTO. So, the objectives basically are to ensure trade flows as smoothly and predictably as possible. Also to help its members use trade as the means to raise people's living standards. In this regard, then the functions of WTO are administering trade agreements, acting as a forum for trade negotiations, controlling and settling trade disputes, reviewing national trade policies, building the trade capacity of developing economies by providing technical reinforcement and training, cooperating with other international organizations and supporting other international organizations to achieve global economic growth. So, these are the functions of WTO. Now, coming to the structure and working of WTO. If we see the structure of WTO, this is the flow chart we can say, or the organization chart. So, this on the top you can see, in the top it is ministerial conference, which is also known as MC. Then there is general council, and under it 3 councils are there covering goods, services and intellectual property rights. Beside that, dispute settlement body is there, and also trade policy review body is there. So, this is the whole structure of WTO. Now, this has been enumerated here. So, as we have said, the bodies are Ministerial Conference, MC, General Council, GC, Director General and Secretariat of WTO, Trade Dispute Settlement Body, Trade Policy Review Body, and under General Council there are Council for Trade in Goods, Trade in Services and trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. Now, we will discuss all these bodies one by one, which are the subparts of WTO. So, first is Ministerial Conference. At the top of the WTO structure is Ministerial Conference. It comprises of international trade ministers from all member countries. So, if we say that 166 member countries are there, then the trade minister of international trade minister of each one of them will be the member of Ministerial Conference. This governing body of WTO frames all strategic directions and takes all vital decisions on multilateral trade agreements. Members of MC are required to meet at least once in 2 years. Decisions are generally taken by consensus. At times, voting may be done to take decisions. Then comes the second body, and that is General Council. Now, General Council has senior representatives, generally ambassador level, from all member nations. So, again 166 senior representatives will be member of General Council, but now they are at ambassador level. Its job is to have a glance into day-to-day working and management of WTO. On behalf of MC, General Council is the decision-making body. Large number of councils and committees report directly to General Council. Now, the sub councils we will discuss later on, and they are part of General Council. The another body is Director General and the Secretariat of WTO. The Secretariat is headed by the Director General by MC, that is Ministerial Conference, for a period of 4 years. It has no decision making power, but Secretariat provides administrative services and advices. Trade Dispute Settlement Body is another body under WTO. This resolves all, WTO resolves all quarrels among member nations under dispute settlement body. DSB ensures smooth functioning of multilateral trade agreements and enforcement of rules and principles of WTO. And then there is Trade Policy Review Body. The body has all members of WTO and looks into the trade policy review mechanism. It regularly reviews the trade policies and practices of WTO members as and when changes are happening in the world trade, then they regularly review the trade policies. I do not know whether why they are now silent when there is a kind of a tariff war happening which is triggered by US. But nevertheless, they review the trade policies and practices, and this is done by all the members of WTO. It enhances transparency for better understanding of individual trade policies of each member nations. And then there is Council for Trade in Goods, Services and Intellectual Property Rights at the second level, or if we go by the organization chart, it is the third level, and this comes under the General Council. So, these three councils work under General Council and they are subsidiary bodies carrying specific responsibilities. So, we can discuss them one by one. That is, first is Council for Trade in Goods. So, when we talk about Council for Trade in Goods, it looks into the implementation operation of GATT, that is General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. As we have discussed in our previous lecture, that GATT was concerned only about trade in goods and not covering services or intellectual property rights. So, Council for Trade in Goods is basically looking after the GATT agreements. Then Council for Trade in Services, and in WTO we have trade in services and trade in intellectual property rights also covered under it. So, Council for Trade in Services looks into the implementation operation of GATS, which is General Agreement on Trade in Services. And the third one, that is Council for Trade Related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights. This council looks into the implementation operation of Agreement on Trade Related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights, or TRIPS. They talk about TRIPS only. Then if we think about these three councils, these various committees have established by WTO for operational work, and even some committees are formed by WTO agreements itself. So, this is about the different councils. So, this is the whole structure of WTO and you must have understood this. Now, coming to overview of the WTO agreements. So, whenever we are talking about GATT or WTO, at the heart of it is the agreements. When agreements take place and all the member nations, they sign on it, then it becomes a trade rule which is binding on all the member nations. So, WTO agreements are the heart of WTO and often called the WTO's trade rules. As WTO is said to be the rule based, but in reality these rules are nothing but WTO negotiated agreements. So, I believe you have understood how it works. So, they work by framing agreements among the member nations, and these agreements then becomes the trade rules. So, the broader aspects covered under the WTO agreements are the principles of trade liberalization subject to certain exceptions, lowering of tariff rates and other trade barriers in order to open the market's access for trade. Tariff rates and barriers are decided on the basis of commitments done by each individual member nation. establishing a mechanism for dispute settlement, providing special treatment to developing countries. Nations should regularly report their trade policies, laws in force and other economic measures to WTO in order to maintain a transparency mechanism. And if you see these agreements, you will find that they are exactly going in line with the principles, trading principles which we have discussed in the first part. Now, what areas are covered by WTO agreement? Obviously, we said that WTO is concerned with trade in goods, services, intellectual property rights, and then we also added a WTO was added the international investment. So, these are the basic areas which we are going to discuss now. So, the Marrakesh Agreement led to the establishment of WTO and also provided for future framework for negotiation among member nations. This is known as Umbrella Agreement or the agreement establishing the WTO. So, although in Uruguay round the GATT was converted to WTO, but all agreements initially or the formation of WTO or its function was decided in Marrakesh Conference. The agreement contains the provisions relating to formation of WTO, its membership, its structure, decision making bodies, etc. Goods are covered under the provisions of GATT as we have discussed. So, these are the areas, as I said, that there will be a repetition because these are the things which are covered under WTO agreement. So, GATT covers the goods, trade in goods. Then services are covered under General Agreement on Trade in Services, that is GATS, and trade related aspects of intellectual property rights is TRIPS. The additional details encompasses extra agreements and or annexes dealing with special requirements of a specific sector or issue. Also, dispute settlement mechanism of WTO ensures smooth flow of trade and for enforcing WTO rules. Dispute settlement is based on agreement and commitment. When one of the member nation violates the agreement or commitments made to WTO, a dispute arises. An agreement is an outcome of negotiations among the member nations. Therefore, the ultimate responsibility of dispute settlement lies with the member nation through dispute settlement. Then another area is transparency through trade policy review mechanism, which is also known as TPRM. TPRM involves periodic, collective and intensive appreciation of trade policies and practices of all member nations. TPRM also involves evaluating their impact on the functioning of the multilateral trading system. The purpose of TPRM is to improve adherence by all members towards rules and commitments made under the multilateral trading system. So, it is a mechanism to maintain a kind of a transparency between the member nations. It smoothens the functioning of WTO agreements in order to achieve greater transparency and understanding the trade policies and practices of the member nations. Now, coming to the major components of WTO, now we will discuss each of the components related to goods, services, intellectual property rights, investments under these major components one by one. So, first to enumerate, these are the 4 areas that we will discuss, that is goods under General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade GATT, services under General Agreement for Trade in Services GATS, trade related aspects of intellectual property rights TRIPS and trade related investment measures, that is TRIMS. So, starting with goods under General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. The provision of GATT has agreements or annexes deals with following specific sectors or issues which were covered under GATT, that is agriculture, health regulations for farm products, textiles and clothing, product standards, investment measures, anti-dumping measures, customs valuation methods, pre-shipment inspection, rules of origin that we have discussed earlier also, import licensing, subsidies and countermeasures, safeguards. So, we can say that this is a kind of a all the goods which are, and this list is not exhaustive. In fact, newer goods, newer policies are added to this whenever we talk about this type of agreement. So, with agreements new products can be added or new areas can be added. All these ensures that the trade in goods is liberalized and there are no or less barriers among the member nations. Then we come to the second part, and that is services under General Agreement for Trade in Services, that is GATS. It is a vital outcome of Uruguay round of multilateral trade negotiation that services were added, as we have said that when the GATS, that is General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, transformed into WTO in the 8th round or Uruguay round of negotiation, then services and intellectual property rights were added to the WTO agreements. So, this is an outcome, services is an outcome of Uruguay round. GATS is considered to be the first ever set of multilateral and legally enforceable rules covering international trade in services. So, now we are talking about GATS. There are various services covered under GATS, that is GATS, such as business, communication, construction and engineering, distribution, education, environment, financial and health. Now, these are not grouped. In fact, it is only for convenience that I have written it in bulleted points, but there is no specific groups. So, basically each one of them is covered under different agreements. Then tourism and travel, recreation, cultural and sporting, transport, however services in the exercise of governmental authority and air traffic rights are two exceptions to the coverage of GATS. Trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, which is known as TRIPS, TRIPS. So, it deals with rules relating to trade and investment in ideas and creativity. The areas covered under TRIPS agreements are as follows: copyright and related rights, trademark including service marks, geographical indications, so which is also known as GI tagging. If it is originally manufactured in one place, then it is GI tagged. Like in India, several products are GI tagged, whether it is Banarsi sari. So, Banarsi sari can be produced only in Banaras. So, it is a GI tagged product. Previously, such restrictions, such agreements were not there. So, anybody could consider like even if it is manufactured in China with artificial silk, they used to call it Banarsi, but that is not allowed. Now, only the GI product will be manufactured in those area where it is originally being manufactured. Industrial designs, patents, layout designs like topographies of integrated circuits, undisclosed information including trade secrets. And the last one is trade related investment measures or TRIMS, TRIMS. So, in this seeks to abolish all restrictions, measures and condition imposed on the investment from outside. So, this is newer agreement which was added also to allow foreign investors to invest anywhere in the world. Foreign capital or investment free from restrictions, foreign and domestic investors treated at par, No limit by host country, like slowly every member nation is moving towards 100% foreign equity permitted. Investors free to import raw materials, components, inputs and intermediate goods. So, all these are agreements, are all these part of TRIMS. Investors will not be obliged to export a portion of their output. No restriction or repatriation of dividend, interest and royalty to their home country. So, these were the agreements, though many countries have these restrictions on repatriation of foreign exchange or dividend or interest and royalty, but under the umbrella of WTO, this type of agreements are there under TRIMS. Now, let us summarize whatever we have studied in this lecture. So, the functions of WTO are administering trade agreements, forum for trade negotiations, settling trade disputes, reviewing national trade policies, building the trade capacity of developing economies and cooperating with other international organizations. Now, you see that these functions of WTO are the outcome of the broader objectives of WTO of liberalizing trade and the growth of all the economies. The structure of WTO includes ministerial conference, which is also known as MC, then general council, director general and secretariat, trade dispute body, trade policy review body and different councils under the general council, that is council for trade in goods, services and intellectual property rights. The WTO agreements contain the provisions relating to the formation of WTO, its membership, its structure, decision making bodies, etc. And this was the outcome of the Marrakesh meet or conference. Goods are covered under the provisions of General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT, and under that we have seen several products and trade related to goods issues were covered under it. Then services are covered under General Agreement on Trade and Services, that is GATS, and when we talk about GATS, again different type of services, whether hospitals or health or any kind of services except for certain aviation related services are covered under General Agreement on Trade in Services. Then trade related aspects of international property rights, that is TRIPS, it covers the agreements related to copyrights, trademarks, use of other intellectual property and the rules which are binding on all the member nations. And finally, the trade related investment measures, that is TRIMS, TRIMS, and TRIMS with the coming of TRIMS, it is a new addition to WTO. Then with TRIMS came that free movement of funds or investment in different member nations can happen. 100% foreign investment is allowed in all the member nations, and slowly they are going towards a world where there will be no restriction on even repatriation of dividends or interest from one country to another. Though in our country certain restrictions are there, but for the promotion of trade this type of agreements are happening. Then other areas are dispute settlement, and disputes may happen between the member nations, but the member nations, the WTO facilitates the member nations to come to an amicable solution of all the disputes, and they are taken up by the WTO. And transparency through trade policy review mechanism is also there. So, WTO also ensures that transparency is maintained in trade negotiation between the countries two member nations should not enter into a kind of a trade agreement without the knowledge of WTO, and also there is a review mechanism. So, whenever the things are changing, the economies are changing, the economic environment is changing, the policies are reviewed. So, all these are part and parcel of WTO agreements. I hope you have understood that. For your references, different books are there. One interesting one is by C.B. Gupta, then Sumati Verma. You can find additional information from EPG Pathshala also. Chaturvedi and others, they have also come out with a new book on international business. Then Hill and Hult, this is another book which is very popular in international business. So, I hope you have learned a lot about WTO. We will continue about the merits and demerits of WTO in our next lecture. Have a good read and have a good understanding. Have a nice day. Thank you, students.